The FDA has just approved a new treatment for sickle cell disease. If you're from Nigeria or somewhere else in sub Saharan Africa, you probably know someone who has sickle cell disease or at least is a carrier having the genotype AS. Every year, over 200,000 babies are born with sickle cell disease in Africa, and over 90% of those babies would die in childhood. On December 8th, the FDA approved two new drugs or treatments for sickle cell disease. Is this the answer to prayer, the science we've all been waiting for? In this video, I explain these treatments, the science behind how they work, how much they cost, the results from the clinical trial, as well as who these treatments are currently available to. Hello friends, welcome to my channel. My name is Ibi. I am a fifth year PhD student studying molecular biology. Welcome to the segment of my channel where I explain recent scientific discoveries as well as tell you how they can affect your life. If you know a sickle cell warrior, one thing they most likely complain about is pain, fatigue, and being anemic. Why do they complain about this? Well, broadly speaking, it's because of the shape of their red blood cells. People who have sickle cell disease have defective hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is a protein that is found in our red blood cells that is important for carrying oxygen to the various parts of our body. People with sickle cell have impaired hemoglobin function, and this affects their body's ability to carry oxygen through the body. But not only does it do this, it also changes the shapes of their red blood cells, which is where hemoglobin is found. So instead of the red blood cells being this round disc-like shape, it becomes sickle shaped, hence where the name of the disease comes from. Not only is it sickle shaped, they become stiff and not as flexible as the normal round ones. And this prevents them from being able to move easily through blood vessels. So they go on to clog certain blood vessels, causing a lot of pain. And this leads to obstruction of blood flow. And this can happen in different tissues or organs. So imagine having obstructed blood flow in your lungs, in your heart. That is what some of these sickle cell warriors have to go through. Sickle cell disease was first found in 1910 and explained in 1949. Safe to say that for over 100 years, the only cure or treatment that has been found is the bone marrow transplant or stem cell transplant. What exactly is this? Within our bone, we have the bone marrow, and this is the factory for most of our blood cells. Our bone marrow consists of parent cells which produce all manner of blood cells, including red blood cells. So the science is that if we can change the bone marrow of a sickle cell warrior, then we can change the factory where these defective hemoglobin in red blood cells are formed, and that way we would have the good, healthy, round-like red blood cells all over the sickle cell patient's body. However, of course, there has to be a willing and healthy donor for this to happen. And bone marrow transplants are not cheap. So even if this treatment has been available, not so many children or people, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, have access to this treatment. And so there are still many people going through the pain of sickle cell disease with little to no hope for a cure except for just treating the symptoms like the pain, taking painkillers like hydroxyurea and the rest. Now let's talk about this treatment that the FDA just approved. The FDA approved two treatments, but in this video I'll focus on one. This treatment is called Cas9, and basically this treatment uses a gene editing tool to edit the cells of the sickle cell warrior so that they would produce good hemoglobin. Isn't that amazing? I'm going to give you some of the science of how this works because I think it's really, really intriguing. Now, the gene editing tool being used is called CRISPR Cas9. Think of CRISPR Cas9 as a guide and a scissors. So the CRISPR is going to be a guide and the Cas9 is going to be a scissors. Basically, the guide tells the scissors where to cut. Now imagine a long stretch of DNA, and of course, we have different genes contained in this DNA. What happens with this gene editing tool is that the CRISPR, which is the guide, will be made to target a specific portion of the DNA, while the Cas9 will go in there and chop it off, basically removing that portion of the DNA. And of course, our body has regular DNA repair systems. So your body will just repair that place that was excised. That is basically how CRISPR Cas9 works. Why is this important to our drug? Well, that means that if there is a defective portion of your DNA, it can easily go in there and cut it off. Now, let's talk a little bit about hemoglobin and I'll tie it back to how the drug works. There is something called fetal hemoglobin, which is the type of hemoglobin that is only found in fetus, babies in the womb. This type of hemoglobin stops after a baby is born. And the reason why it is no longer produced after a baby is born is because of a gene called BC11A that stops the production of fetal hemoglobin. So scientists thought about it. This fetal hemoglobin does the right thing, it is not defective. How about we create a way to make sure that this fetal hemoglobin keeps being produced even with people that have sickle cell? That way, the fetal hemoglobin can replace the defective hemoglobin that their body is being produced. So that was the idea. And so what they did was that they took cells from patients' bone marrow, patients with sickle cell. They took their bone marrow cells and basically they re-engineered it using this CRISPR Cas9 magic scissors method. So basically, they took out the cells and they created a guide CRISPR to target the gene BC11A. And the scissors basically cuts off this gene. That way, there is no way the gene would repress the fetal hemoglobin, and the fetal hemoglobin will be allowed to multiply. When that happens, it can replace the defective hemoglobin that these carriers or these warriors already have. Obviously, for this to work, you have to kill off all the original bone marrow stem cells that were existing in the patient. And how do you do this? It's done using chemotherapy, which is basically a drug that kills cells and it is targeted to those bone marrow cells. And those cells are then replaced with the cells that have been edited using this CRISPR Cas9 system, edited to not express the gene that suppresses fetal hemoglobin. So basically, they are re-engineering the body to be able to allow fetal hemoglobin, which is not defective and which replaces the defective hemoglobin. Now, has this been done in any human being? Because it sounds very big and scientific and something that is only done in labs. Well, yes, it definitely has been done. That's why it was approved by the FDA. For the company that created this drug, they went into clinical trial with about 31 patients, and 29 out of that 31 has been successful. That's over 90% of success. Basically, they no longer feel the pains of sickle cell 1 year after taking this treatment or after undergoing this treatment. This means that there's quite a lot of hope. Over 90% success rate is incredible, and you do not need a donor. However, the clause is that it is still ridiculously expensive. $2 million is the estimated price or cost for undergoing this treatment. Again, still not accessible to the regular child, in sub-Saharan Africa. But the thing with treatments is that eventually the hope is they get popular enough for insurance to start covering them and for the technology to be duplicated so much that it is now cheaper for the common person. So, regardless of the price, it is still good news for people who have sickle cell disease. I'm very, very excited about this because the company that worked on this drug is Vertex Pharmaceuticals, where I did my internship over the summer. So I'm like really, really excited because I got to meet some of the people who worked on this treatment. It is a beautiful day again for scientists, showing that the work we do in the lab actually matters and can yield beautiful results like this. It would be irresponsible of me to not mention some of the risks involved with this treatment. Remember that the idea is that this CRISPR Cas9 system edits the DNA and removes certain portions of it. So some of the risk factors is that what if there are off targets? What if our guide CRISPR does not do its work well enough and guides the scissors to somewhere else in the genome? And that means that somewhere that may be necessary for life could be excised, and that can cause problems in the future. However, the scientists who are involved with this have said that for all the people who underwent clinical trial, they did not see any off-target effects, so they do not think that will be a problem. This clinical trial has only been done for about 2 years, so there are questions about what the long-term effect of such a trial is. Nonetheless, it is still a beautiful day for scientists, seeing people live pain-free lives because of the work they did in the lab. Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I just wanted to share this exciting news with you. If you have a warrior, there is hope. Hopefully very soon around them. And we hope to see more of, I guess, inventions like this that are changing our world. If you did enjoy this, let me know what you thought about this new science gist in the comments. Let me know your questions, let me know your thoughts, and share this with someone. Hopefully you learned a thing or two. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.